All right, so we are live covering WWE Dynamite. Wait a minute, AEW Dynamite. So we had a fun going off the air gaff from JR this week. But other than that, we had some impressive facial hair this week. And some pretty good matches and a really, really shitty match that we really just didn't need to see.
Yeah. Overall, I thought this was a very good show. I would have thought it was a great show, except that, and we'll get there, but the main event was just a little too much for me. So it decreased it from great to very good.
All right, yeah. I really like the main event, but they did. I think there's a couple things they could have done to improve it, but they kind of buried a couple moves, which is I think
there's a couple things they could have not done that would have greatly improved it.
There you go. Yes. But yeah, so overall I thought this was a decent show. It's their technically I guess it's their last of the pandemic era, if you will, hopefully. Hopefully. But they are actually going right back to Daly's Place for the August 4th show.
Oh, really?
So they'll be back in Daly's Place, but then they'll be heading back out onto the road right after that anyway. So it is what it is. But yeah, so tonight we'll be talking the AEW Dynamite show from June 30th, 2021. You're listening to the That's Wrestling podcast. If you're listening to this as a podcast, we do this show live over on Twitch and YouTube. You can follow us at That's Wrestling 1 with the number 1. You can follow Trae at WrestleIsm on Twitter. Comments, questions, feedback, you can send those to Eric at that'swrestling.com. You can snag the RSS feed over there as well if you can't find it in your favorite podcast app. Drop us a review on your favorite podcast app. Give the YouTube video a like and subscribe to the channel. And you can follow. All the links are down in the show notes for the YouTube channel, the Twitch channel, and also our Discord as well. And once again, I am back with Trae Wisecarver. How's it going, man?
Hey, I'm officially announcing, and this is halfway on impulse and halfway I've been thinking about it. I'm announcing right now, I am kayfabing my last name, henceforth it is Trae Outlaw.
Alrighty. I was not expecting that one. I don't know what to say to that.
It's apropos of nothing else that's been going on anywhere except in my head.
Alrighty. Yeah. So, are you surviving the heat at least?
Yeah, I'm staying inside.
All right. All right, so let's start it off. So the AEW show, we had Jericho was on commentary all night. So kind of his every once in a while commentary run. And then we kicked off the evening with the Young Bucks versus Penta El Zero M and Eddie Kingston. So the Bucks come out with
oh my God,
the most douchebaggy porn star stashes. Tony even said as such.
I wrote pedo mustaches.
So Matt had a mustache that just kind of went far past his lips, and then Nick had a full-on Fu Manchu.
Yeah. By the way, Jericho's new book, the Record of Jericho, the complete list of his every match that he ever had, is out now. So I immediately went and ordered my copy.
Yeah, I heard his interview over on Wrestling Observer that he did with them on yesterday. Came out yesterday, so it was pretty good talking about that stuff. So that should be a very interesting book. So
yeah, I'm such a nerd for wrestling results that that was a no-brainer.
Yeah, he said he even had like he put in how much he made for the match. He gave himself star ratings all the way back then, and then he even had some blips from people about matches that he had with them, including, you know, even recently with Orange Cassidy, Jungleboy, Darby Allin. And so basically it runs all the way from his first match through his 30th anniversary match against Luther and Serpentico.
Yeah, it's awesome, and I'm like really excited to check it out. I'm such a nerd for stuff like that. Like, I have a copy of the Midnight Express 20th anniversary scrapbook that has like all that information about them, and that book is like out of print. And last I checked, which was a while ago, they go secondhand for like $400 or $500. But that's one that'll never leaving my personal collection.
Yeah, and actually, this one, he had to self-publish because his publisher wouldn't publish it because he thought no one would buy it. And he's like, we're going to have to put in for like a second printing in like the next week.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Anyways, so Penta L0M and Eddie Kingston versus the Young Bucks. They tried to start it off when the streamers went off as Kingston and Moxley did at their match at Double or Nothing, but the Bucks avoided that. But in the end, Kingston and Matt are the ones that started off. Matt comes out on the wrong side of things there. Though once Penta is tagged in, the Bucks take over for a bit. Penta hits a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker on Matt on the outside, and then hits a springboard on Nick to make his way over to Eddie to get the tag in for that. Matt ends up pulling Kingston out of the ring, but he ends up eating an exploder on the floor. Though we then get a kick from Nick on the apron to Kingston on the floor. And then they hit Risky Business on the floor on Eddie. And then Eddie no-sells some kicks from the Bucks once they're back into the ring, starts fighting out, but the Bucks cut him off. Nick hits a running knee to the face. Kingston blocks a more bang for your buck, gives Nick a ton of headbutts while he's up on the top rope, gives him a superplex. Then Penta gets tagged in, bunch of kicks to Matt. DDT on Matt, Sling Blade on Nick, Code Red on Matt for a 2. Matt blocks the pile driver, but then Penta hits a springboard Hurricanrana on Nick. Nick gets hit with a super kick backstabber for a 2. Matt hits a crossbody on the ramped Kingston, and Penta and Nick fight on the outside of the ring. Penta hits some kicks, hits a super kick. Penta blocks a super kick back towards him. They do a couple standing switches. Nick grabs the ref, and the ref is trying to get his hand off of him, and he back kicks Penta in the balls. And then the Bucks hit the Lucha Bros finisher with the package pile driver stomp, and Kingston has to break up that pin. Good Brothers come on to ringside. Kingston eats 3 super kicks in a row. Good Brothers pull the ref while Penta is being held by Matt, but Penta ducks and gets hit with cold spray from Brandon, who had jumped up on the apron, and he is such an idiot. He just freezes when he realizes that he screwed up, and he's just spraying Matt in the face.
That was fantastic. Oh, Brandon, everybody, this was a really intricate finish involving a lot of people, a lot of moving parts, and everybody hit their spots perfectly.
Frankie comes out. He takes out Brandon. Penta hits a dive out on Matt. Kingston hit a dive out on him. Frankie takes out Brandon, and then Eddie took out Nick on the outside. Penta hits the Fear Factor, which is the package pile driver. Eddie hits a back fist, and they get the victory. So they get a tag team title shot, and that is actually going to be next week.
I'm going to say this several times over the course of this show. I called this last week.
Yes, you did.
This match was awesome, man. Eddie Kingston in there working his ass off. Eddie Kingston like working at the Young Bucks pace. It was just holy shit, and they kept doing these ridiculously close near falls with the baby faces getting near falls. And it was just they were live in front of a hot crowd, and it was just, you felt that they got to give it to us. And like I said, the kind of final closing sequence was excellent. Everybody hit their spots perfectly, and yeah, this was a 4-star match and the opening match of Dynamite.
Yeah, and even at one of the finishes was so close that like the entire crowd was like, "That was 3! That was 3! That was 3!"
It was a corkscrew code red from Penta on one of the Young Bucks.
Yes, that was the code from the code red. Yeah. All right, yeah, awesome match, and Penta and Kingston get a title match next week against the Bucks. First time Bucks have lost in over a year.
Yeah, that was, which it's funny considering that like the first several months of AEW they were doing way too many jobs. Now they've been so incredibly well protected, and yet this is just, you know, one of those things that just kind of happens as a result of, you know, shit happening, injuries and whatnot, that you've got Penta and Eddie Kingston in a tag team, and just the way it worked out, you needed to do this, and you did it, and everybody did their part perfectly.
They're doing it again with Eddie, where they have a match and they replay the match back another like a couple weeks later. Next up, we had Jungleboy and Christian Cage. They're just backstage. Christian says that he's proud of Jungleboy for last week, says everybody's proud of him, says that he can learn from the loss, but what we learned from the match was that he could stand toe-to-toe with Kenny Omega, and someday he'll be the AEW champion. Luchasaurus comes in, and he has a really low voice. He's like, "Thank you for having Jungleboy's back, and not many people know this, but dinosaurs are very loyal, so now I got your back." And Christian says that he appreciates that and says, "Oh, crazy story, I'm a quarter Cosmoceratops on my mother's side." And then Luchasaurus goes back to like his regular voice. He's like, "Oh, really? Wow, my Uncle Larry is the exact same way."
This was silly, but it was the kind of silly that like I'm okay with in professional wrestling.
And it was quick. It did not linger and drag on.
It did not overstay its welcome.
Yep. The joke was like done within 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Next up we have Tony. He's with the Men of the Year. Ethan is asked why a coffin match, and he says, to be completely honest, and oh my god, the crowd would not let him speak. They were just so hot and just yelling at him, so he yelled at the crowd a little bit, but he does end up continuing on. He says, to completely honest, what he's been doing hasn't been enough. He says his goal isn't to beat Darby Allin, his goal is to exterminate Darby Allin. And he threw him down some stairs, he threw him into the crowd, and yet he still came back. So crippling Darby Allin physically just isn't enough. He has to cripple him mentally. He says after he beats Darby Allin that whenever Darby Allin goes for a coffin drop, whenever he hits a coffin drop, he'll be thinking about Ethan Page. Sting comes out, he's rolling a coffin, and we get a short Darby video package. And Darby pops up out of the coffin. He attacks Ethan. Sting hits the Scorpion Death Drop on Scorpio Sky, and then Ethan rolls out of the ring, grabs the microphone, and says, "Oh, I knew it, Darby. You wouldn't be able to face me if I was 100%. So next week's match, it's off." And now he wants it in writing that Darby can't touch him for at least a week running up to the match. and they're going to be doing it Fyter Fest instead. So it looks like the match has been rescheduled, so the coffin match will be happening in 2 weeks instead of next week.
Yeah, my first thought was, did they decide they need to spread out some of these matches because that Miami show was loaded? Then I saw somebody on Twitter point out that they might have decided that doing a coffin match in Miami this next week would be unseemly, given the building collapse in Miami that has killed many people.
Yes.
Just here recently.
Yes, I did not think about that until I heard people saying that today. I'm like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it was perfectly logical the way they did it to move the match. Mm-hmm. So I was fine with that.
And oh my god, Ethan Page is such a good promo.
He is phenomenal, and then I've seen him for years because there was a period where I was a big Evolve fan, so I saw a lot of Ethan Page, and I saw him live several times, and it's still just he looks bigger, he looks more like a star, than I ever kind of really thought that he would. He's always had the promo skills, but he's just matured as a wrestler and gotten better as a promo, and he's fucking great.
Yeah, I mean that match that he had last week, Bear Bronson, was wonderful.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Jack Evans versus Jungle Boy. So we got Jack versus Jack. We have an insert from Matt Hardy saying that Jungle Boy stuck his nose into his business with taking out Christian Cage. So this is basically he just wants Jack Evans to destroy Jungle Boy for him. We start off the match. This actually had a little bit of a feel of last week's match with Dante Martin and Matt Sydal, where the same thing, they started off with some chain wrestling, but it was a little bit more elevated than your typical chain wrestling. Evans goes for a drop kick, and Jungle Boy sidesteps it, goes right into a snare trap, but Evans scrambles to the ropes. We get a little bit of back and forth, get heat on Jungle Boy through the commercial. Jungle Boy makes this is one of the formulaic things. The moment they said they came back from commercial, Jungle Boy starts to make his comeback. Literally, he was Excalibur wasn't done saying that they were back on TNT by the time Jungle Boy started to make his comeback. It was, I hate that. So Evans goes for a German suplex off the ropes, and Jungle Boy lands on his feet and immediately goes for a drop kick with Evans, who is still upside down against the turnbuckle, and then he submits Jack Evans with the snare trap.
Yeah, when I saw this, when I saw the match on paper, I was befuddled. But once they started wrestling, I got it. And Jack Evans is the perfect guy to work with Jungle Boy because he has decades of experience working in Mexico and in Dragon Gate and in the Independence. And amazingly, he's been doing this shit for 20 years and he can still do all of his shit physically. And he knows how to get the most out of an athletic but less experienced opponent. And this was good stuff. And
Jack Evans is actually a couple inches shorter than Jungle Boy, but the styles really match up well. And I think Jungle Boy could learn a lot from Jack Evans. I didn't even realize Jack Evans was 39 years old.
Dude, if you would have told me in 2004 that one day I would really appreciate Jack Evans as a worker, I would have thought you were nuts, but here we are.
The match was fine. Really, it was to continue the Hardy Christian storyline, because after the match, Matt Hardy and Private Party start making their way out onto the ramp towards the ring, but Marco, Luchasaurus, and Christian come out and fight with them. And in the end, the baby faces stand tall after Christian beats on Matt a little bit and they bail. So that was really what is setting up to continue the Christian Matt Hardy storyline.
Yeah. It's there.
Yeah, it was. MJF, he cuts a promo pre-tape, and he says that he's outsmarted, he's out-wrestled the Inner Circle, and he was the fox in the hen house and created his own faction out of it. He outclassed Jericho. He says that you'd think after 30 years, you'd know when it's best to hang it up. But Jericho will not do that, and Jericho in the Inner Circle has made AEW their own Looney Tunes show. He talks about the dousing with the bubbly and all that fun stuff, says that Jericho's a joke now. He used to be cool, but he's not anymore, and he keeps stooping to new lows, says if Jericho wants a match with him, he's going to have some stipulations that he's going to have to fulfill first. He addresses Sammy, says that after tonight's match, yes, Sammy, they'll be calling you the future, but I'm the now because I'm better than you and you know it.
This was a fantastic promo. MJF does not do unfantastic promos.
He needs to work on his modulation just a little bit. He's getting a little too shouty for me.
Yeah, so
well, just a little bit. Like, just pull back the shouting a little bit, and you'd be way more menacing. Next, we have a very quick promo. Alex Abrahantes is interviewing Andrade El Idolo, and basically he says that they announced Matt Sydal versus Andrade, and Andrade keeps calling him Matt something. He can't remember his last name, even though Alex said Sydal. He's like, it's going to be Andrade El Idolo versus Matt something. It was great.
Maybe he thinks he's wrestling somebody related to Jake something from Impact.
Don't know, but this was great. And now I want Alex to be Andrade's mouthpiece.
Yeah, I kind of see. I think there's a lot that you can do with Alex. Just have him be the translator, and he's just friends with all the Spanish speakers, and he translates for them. Yep. And none of their shit can or cannot overlap, and he just does it. But then eventually, like, we have Andrade versus Penta, and he's cutting promos on himself. Once again, I called it last week. Andrade versus Matt Sydal in Miami.
Yep. All right. Next, we have Kenny Omega. He comes out to the ring. Tony's in the ring. Omega, he has also met the Razor like the Bucks.
Mutton chops.
Connecting
Kenny Omega
a mustache.
Had fucking mutton chops.
With the mustache.
Yes.
So it's awesome. It is so great. The Elite all did this, including Brandon Cutler and Michael Nakazawa. They all have crazy facial hair. It's great.
It's so horrible, and I hate it. But I love that I hate it.
Yes, it is definitely
every week they are a little douchier, and I admire the craft.
Omega poses a question to himself about what keeps him motivated, and he says, well, today I woke up feeling like a king. You realize that he's defeated the toughest guys in AEW. He's defeated the high flyers in AEW. He's beaten the greatest wrestlers in AEW, not named Kenny Omega. He's beaten the greatest up-and-comer in AEW, Jungleboy, last week. And he says, since I've beaten everybody, I'm going to take some time off because there's no challengers for me. Dark Order all come out, and Evil Uno says, you don't have any challengers. We think differently. Omega then says, what, 5? Yeah, he's not going to last 2 minutes with me. And you guys just need to turn around and go back down that tunnel. And Uno says, well, there's somebody that we're friends with and someone that you used to be good friends with. And Omega says, if you're talking about the same person that I think you're talking about, I don't think he'd like you speaking for him. I don't think he has the guts. And he also knows he doesn't deserve it. And Kenny Omega bids his adieu and makes his way out. And that was that.
You did not fully articulate the greatness of this line, because Kenny says that 5 wouldn't last 2 minutes in the ring with him, and Jericho, who called that match in the Nightmare Factory with Tony, immediately said he lasted like 10 about a year ago.
Yes,
I loved that. That was just god level trolling, and then the fact that Jericho just remembered immediately, and just, that was a fantastic line. That made me laugh, and
that was actually probably set up, and Omega purposely did it, and it was already planted with Jericho to say that, because that was the match that Alan Angels got a ton of time when he was just a jobber, and people were like all pissy about it.
I can definitely see Omega coming up with that line just to be a troll, and then Jericho just on the sperm of the moment would immediately react that way. So I don't know.
Either way. So that was that. It was fine, and we continue on from there. We revisit this after the next match. So we have Brian Pillman promo quickly before his match, says that he didn't have much faith growing up, but he did have friends that believed in him. Griff is like a brother to him, and I'm going to show Miro, you're not God's favorite champion. You're just a big Bulgarian bitch.
The great promo. I wish that they had done an angle somewhere along here to actually put some steam on him, but the promo was good.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically been good promos from both of them. I mean, Miro's last week was like one of the best promos ever.
Miro, you're getting just more amazing every week. Oh my god. Miro has new music that is amazing, and according to the Tron, he is now the Redeemer Miro.
Yeah, so he got new music. It's really like epic soundtrack, big, deep horns and everything, and drums. Oh, it's great. Though I did like his old music.
Once again, I have to repeat the line that what they are doing with Miro now is as good as what they were doing with him was bad.
They get... Oh, and Miro came down to the ring. Before he stepped through the ropes, he throws his belt across the ring to Aubrey. She was obviously not expecting him to do that, because she ducked and got out of the way, because he heaved that thing. It wasn't even like a good, looping, toss. It was like he hucked it at her. I don't know if you noticed that.
I don't think I did.
He basically threw it at her, across the whole ring, and she just, bailed out of the way. Luckily, it hit the rope, so it didn't go flying out of the ring, but it was pretty funny. So we start off the match. We get strikes from Pillman right out of the gate. Fall-away slam from Miro. And then he buries some forearms to the kidneys. Lots of strikes. They fight to the floor. Release overhead throw on the floor to Pillman from Miro. Miro hangs Pillman in the ropes and gives him a bunch of clubbing shots to the chest. Pillman snaps Miro on the top rope. Then he hits a springboard dropkick back into the ring. And then Miro rolls to the outside, so Pillman hits a drop kick through the ropes to the outside, and he did not grab the rope as he was sliding by. He tried to, but he missed, and he just flopped on the floor. So he went full on drop kick through the ropes and landed on the floor. But he was fine. Pillman throws Miro into the barricade. They make their way back into the ring. Springboard clothesline from Pillman. Miro kicks out at 1. Pillman hits 2 super kicks. Miro catches a third. But Pillman ends up eating a head kick from Miro. He eats a super kick that drops him, and then Miro stomps on the back, locks on game over, pulls him all the way back, basically turns it into a rear naked choke. Pillman passes out. Ref has to stop the match, and Miro retains his championship. And post-match, he's holding it up like an offering to his god.
Yeah, I love this for Miro, but again, I am disappointed with how little they capitalized on the moment where they could have made Brian Pillman Jr.
Yeah, they could have canceled the next match and given it to this match and had like a good match here, like a longer match.
Yeah, and also just in the, like, I would have preferred just more, I would have preferred that they put more steam on Pillman before they got to this match.
Yeah, that too. It needed more build. And then I think the finish should have taken a little longer and had Pillman kind of fight a little bit longer to, fighting, passing out, and then eventually give it a good 20 seconds before he actually goes out, instead of, he was in the game over, pulls him back, basically puts it in the rear naked choke, and he's out immediately. This should have taken a little bit more time with that finish.
Yeah, I don't know. One of the things that I've really been disappointed and irritated in AEW's booking, but from a Miro perspective, I loved it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you only have so many spots. Somebody's got to lose. So I mean, sometimes these things happen. Pillman is not that old. What is he, 27 or so?
Yes, and he's got all the time in the world.
Yeah,
I know.
He's got plenty of time. So yeah, it was that. It was fine. Miro offers up his belt to his god. So this he just adds a little bit more character every week.
Yeah, the elite just keep getting douchier and douchier, and Miro just keeps getting more and more just amazing. The Redeemer is a cool nickname, but he really is the best man. He's just the best man, period.
Next up, we have Hangman. He goes back into the Dark Order's area, and he's yelling at the Dark Order, why did you guys do something so stupid? And Stu is like, if you thought we were going to go do something so stupid, why didn't you try to stop us? You still want that championship. And Hangman says, so you guys make the challenge for me? You guys think I'm scared of Kenny? And Colt says, we don't think you're scared of Kenny, but we do think you might be scared of failure. And it's okay to fail as long as you get back on the horse. And Uno says, he failed in his TNT championship match, but Hangman still celebrated his effort. Silver says, we've said this before, no matter what, win or lose, we'll always have your back. We're here for you, and we're here for you now. And they're all leaving, and Alex says, you've waited long enough for this. This is your time. And they all leave, and Hangman is... I don't know the best way to describe Hangman's look at this time. He... kind of contemplative kind of state at this point.
This was wonderful. The Dark Order teaching Hangman to overcome his fear of failure is a great storyline.
So I guess we can talk about this now. How are they going to play this out? Because now it looks like we're definitely heading towards Hangman Kenny for All Out. That's my guess. Hangman probably has to lose that match because it's too early to take the title off of Kenny. Are they going to turn this into Kenny Okada?
No. I still think that, and again, this is just me fantasy booking, but AEW, and I tweeted this last night, AEW booking almost always goes the way that I think it logically should, and that I like that because it makes me feel smart. But I think that Omega beats him through some kind of circumstances, and you come back to it later.
So that would be possibly because Okada beat Kenny the first time. They went to a draw the second time. And then Kenny beat him in the G1 match.
Yes.
So the third time. And then beat him in the no time limit falls. 2 out of 3 falls.
Yeah, I don't think...
over the course of 18 months? Was it a little longer than 18 months? Something like that. About 18 months.
You know, I could see that, or something akin to it. My thought was, you know, like I said last week, my idea was to have Hangman win the championship eliminator tournament and get his other shot then, and then, you know, then maybe it's time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something like that. I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but I think they might be dragging this out a bit longer. Again, you got to remember this story basically started on the second AEW show. Really.
Yeah.
At the first All Out, because Hangman was in the first ever AEW World Championship match. He lost that match. The next time he starts to hunt for the gold, he loses to Kenny during the Eliminator. And now he's getting his third match towards the title. Technically, really his second match 2 years after the first time he fought for the title. I mean, this has been an ongoing storyline with Hangman, and could they continue? I think they could still continue to drag this out another 18 months or so, and then we have the big coronation of Hangman.
Yeah, if you're gonna do that, I would only say that I think, and I could be wrong, and I may decide that I'm wrong later, but I feel like if you do that, Kenny needs to lose the title to somebody else at some point and then get it back.
Maybe. I guess we'll continue to see how they continue to play everything out. But
the thing is, this is AEW, so we can say, well, we'll see where it goes and be confident that it is going somewhere.
Yes, it's going somewhere. We're going to see something. So I don't think it's going to be a complete lost cause. And I would be fine if as long as it's good for the next 18 months to get to Hangman, that's perfectly fine. Because there's ways to do it. We just, I was just talking about, you could go roughly mirroring Kenny versus Okada and do those type of matches. And, instead of obviously the G1, have Kenny put himself in the Eliminator to stop somebody or something. I don't know. That could be a way you guys do.
Actually, a cool idea. I like that idea that Kenny is just gonna enter the Eliminator tournament. So I think that if he wins 3 non-title matches, he doesn't have to defend the title against one guy. But it's just He's just like doing it to make a point that he's better than everyone.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
All right, next up we had Taz. He says, as you can see, we're not in complete form. There's no Starks, there's no Cage. And he says their relationship has been rough between the two of them. It's been rough on Team Taz. They say they need to figure things out. So Cage is going to defend his FTW championship against Ricky Starks in 2 weeks.
Yeah. That is what happened. I guess that answers our question of remember we said it's gonna be Brian Cage and Ricky Starks as soon as Ricky Starks is able to wrestle again, and here we are.
Yes, and that is very good news though that Ricky Starks is going to be I'm sure he's basically healed now. If they're convinced that he will be wrestling in 2 weeks. So,
and I gotta say, as somebody who regularly went to independent shows in Austin, Texas, and saw Ricky Starks, and especially his tag team with Aaron Solo, Extra Talented, I'm glad that he has a featured match on Dynamite in Austin. Good for Ricky Starks.
Yeah.
I've been a fan for since those Wrestle Circus shows.
All right, next up we had the match that nobody wanted, and it played out that way, and it played out way worse than what we were hoping. So
I wrote Nyla Rose and Vickie Guerrero versus Britt Baker and Rebel in the match that nobody wanted to see.
So Britt and Rebel, they beat up Vickie before the bell. Nyla and Rebel are technically the ones that start it off, and I hate my dog. I don't know why she's barking. Nyla beats on Rebel, and Nyla actually wants Britt. She throws her towards Britt, but Britt just bails to avoid a tag. And Nyla keeps beating on Rebel. Vickie gets tagged in. What the fuck? This match is going through a commercial break.
I wrote, I'm not gonna lie, I barely paid any attention to this match.
Vickie gets beat up. She tags out. Nyla back to beating on Rebel. Britt tagged in after the commercial. She beats on Nyla a little bit until Nyla drops her. Britt just sits there on the ropes waiting for the knee drop. Rebel breaks up the pin, and when she does this, she dislocated her knee. In actuality, that is what really happened. So she was all banged up, so they're scrambling to get to whatever the finish was supposed to be, because now Rebel can't do anything. Vickie tagged in. She tells Nyla to go up top, so she's dragging Britt into position, but Britt ends up kicking her off, pushing her into the ropes, knocking Nyla off the top rope, and then Britt submits Vickie with the lockjaw. And then the biggest thing, after the match, Britt is given a beast bomb, and then she's given another one through a table off the apron to the floor.
That match is in Dallas, and my thought process as of this time is kind of want to go to Austin, kind of don't want to go to Dallas.
Yeah, this, I don't know what they were thinking with this match, and it's not getting any better. Like, they're both heels, and Britt is going to end up getting cheered.
This sucked.
And you don't want to turn Britt to a babyface. That is the last thing you want to do.
And the thing is, like, we knew that it sucked as soon as, like, they started this angle.
Oh, man, keep talking.
Okay, I guess something happened. Yeah, so the AEW women's division sucks right now because and I was kind of seeing people discuss this on Twitter today that maybe TNT won't let them do more than one women's match on Dynamite, which is horrible if that is the case. But some of the stuff like, we talked about on the podcast last week. So they've been doing some stuff like they're kind of getting Chris Statlander ready. That's been some pretty decent stuff. But this Britt Nyla thing was the first angle that they shot after Britt finally won the title, and it's sucked from the beginning. And my buddy Alan 4L tweeted, this is Britt's version of Daniel Bryan versus Kane after WrestleMania 30. Just a fulfilling of the long chase and then following it with a fucking horrible first feud.
Yeah. I mean, I doubt it has anything to do with TNT because some of the highest rating segments have been women's segments. Especially some of the Britt Baker segments. Obviously, Britt versus Thunder Rosa. I mean, that was like super highly rated there. So, I mean, it's not that the women don't draw ratings. So I don't know why. So I don't know why people would say it would be TNT saying this, but they're not doing anything of substance on the TV with the women, and this match didn't help things. Even though you have now Britt, who is arguably the most over women's character that you have, I don't know how you screw this up besides doing exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
Hopefully they can pull the trigger on somebody else, and as soon as this match is over in a couple weeks, we can get on to something moving in a positive direction. That is the goal.
This is bad, and I don't like it, and I'm looking forward to it being over.
They run down the card for next week. Next week's going to be a fun one. This is in Miami, so we have Eddie Kingston and Penta versus the Bucks for the AEW tag titles. We have the South Beach strap match between Cody and QT Marshall. We have Matt Sydal versus Andrade El Idolo. We have then a six-man Jake Hager, Santana, Ortiz versus FTR and Wardlow. And then we have the first mixed tag technically the second in AEW history. But the first one on Dynamite and the first one on TV.
Technically, I think the other one was an intergender tag. This is a mixed tag.
Yes. Well,
curious. If you don't know what I'm talking about, in a mixed tag, men wrestle men, women wrestle women. In an intergender tag, anybody can wrestle anybody.
We'll see the rule. We'll see how it actually ends up playing out. So we'll see.
They said mixed tag, so I'm assuming that it's the ladies will fight each other and the men will fight each other.
So it's going to be Bunny and Blade versus Arn Cassidy and Chris Statlander. So that should be an interesting one. And yes. I'm guessing it's going to further the Orange Cassidy Blade storyline, and they'll at least have a singles match at some point in the next few weeks after this, I'm guessing.
Yeah, we talked about it on the Sunday show that I was a big fan of that angle. And yeah, I'm weirdly into this Orange Cassidy versus the Blade.
And another weirdly thing that happened is Jake Hager probably cut his best promo ever in AEW.
Yeah.
So it's Jake Hager and Santana Ortiz. They are just in a stairwell, and Hager does basically all the talking. Says that I bet you guys are tired of seeing us because every time you do, 1, you get your ass whooped, and 2, you get your ass whooped. He talks about Dean knocking out. He talks about MJF knocking out Dean, and then Santana says they're gonna have to get their hands dirty and shut this thing down in Miami. And Ortiz just says, "You messed up." It would have been funnier if they bleeped it and he said, "You fucked up." That would have been better.
Yeah,
but it's fine. And then we go into the final match of the evening, and this is MJF versus Sammy Guevara. And there are some crazy spots in this match. So we start off, and it looks like MJF has taken a cue from Kenta and Jay White as he powders as soon as the bell rings. He then does get back into the ring. They lock up. They keep trying to one-up each other. They get some chops thrown from MJF, running knee from Sammy. MJF blocks the GTH, starting off early here. They exchange a bunch of roll-ups and backslide attempts. Sammy attacks MJF with strikes in the corner. When the ref is trying to break him up, MJF rakes the eyes. Sammy comes back, hits a double springboard cutter on MJF for a 2 count. They fight on the outside. Sammy gets sent into the barricade a couple times. We get some straight chokes from MJF, channeling his inner Tai Chi, I guess. Choke in the ropes, back suplex for a 1 count. We get some raking the face some more. MJF starts stomping on Sammy's hand, rakes the back, so pulling out all the heel tropes here. Sammy hits a couple of chops. MJF yanks him down by the hair, chokes Sammy with his shin, covers for a 2 count, bites the hand, which apparently I did not hear, but Daryl said that got a "that's not kosher" chant from the crowd. Baseball slide dropkick attempt from Sammy. MJF pulls up the ring skirt and catches Sammy with it, and he starts kind of stomping on him. MJF counters a springboard dropkick from Sammy into a Liger bomb. They fight up onto the top rope. Sammy hits a Spanish fly. Bunch of lariats from Sammy. Kick to the face, sending MJF to the outside. Sammy hits a tornado over the top. Springboard into a destroyer, back into the ring from Sammy for a 2 count. MJF goes back to attacking the arm. MJF snaps Sammy across the top rope. MJF goes to the outside. He grabs a chair, but Sammy drop kicks it into MJF's face. MJF goes over the barricades into the front row. Sammy climbs the top rope, does the good old RVD spot, doing this springboard with the cannonball into the crowd, which I don't think I have seen that for a very long time.
That was awesome. And MJF did the Fit Finlay ring apron spot. Respect for that.
Where am I here? It does the RVD spot into the crowd. Sammy rolls MJF back into the ring, climbs up top, but MJF stands up and hits the rope. Sammy falls and crotches himself, and then MJF hits an avalanche tombstone off the second rope. MJF covers, gets a 2 count. MJF is selling his knee at this point after landing. This is one of the fixes I would have done, is if they're going to do this spot, MJF needs to start selling the knee after the landing before the cover. So he takes time to get to the cover if he's going to kick out of a avalanche tombstone.
If he's going to kick out of an avalanche tombstone, don't fucking do an avalanche tombstone.
MJF is having problems standing, so he keeps trying to pick up Sammy, but he just flops over. Sammy baits him in for 1 pickup and tries to roll up MJF, but only gets a 2 count. MJF attacks Sammy's knee. Sammy tosses MJF off when he tries to do a heat seeker, so MJF lands on his knees again, so hurting his knee some more. Sammy hits the GTH, but when he covers MJF, he pulls him he gets into such a deep cover, his foot ends up going over his head and touching the rope to break that count. So Sammy drags MJF over to the corner and goes up top. MJF is begging Sammy not to do it, and Sammy hits the 630 splash on MJF. That was actually a really awesome spot. I kind of liked how MJF was like sitting up, begging him not to do it, but he couldn't roll out of the way and ended up eating it.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
But
that looked awesome.
MJF kicks out of that. And then
I was not a fan of that either.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I was not a fan of that.
I was already first. It was the destroyer that was a 2 count. That's one of my pet peeves that happens in like every other fucking match now. And the tombstone off the top rope. I was getting aggravated, and then and they could have done the 630. Like, and did something like a
foot on the rope.
I don't know, a rope breaker or something.
Yeah, that is what I would have done. Anyways, Shawn Spears starts walking down the ramp, and Jericho leaves commentary. He's like, "I'm gonna go take care of this." But when he's trying to leave commentary, Wardlow attacks him. Jericho gets thrown off the stage to the floor, so the ref goes to check on Jericho, and while he's doing this, Spears hits Sammy in the head with a chair. Ref gets back into the ring. MJF drapes his arm over Sammy and gets the win. And I wrote here, they end with a ton of time left over, so I'm like, what the hell are they going to do? But they actually did something, so we'll talk about that after.
This was very well executed. And I just realized I was a little confused last night because I was the video package. I was looking at I completely lost my train of thought. Something about the video package. Oh, I thought there was an overrun, and then I realized that I just now remembered that at one point I paused my stream for like a few minutes and didn't catch it up.
Got it. But yeah, I mean, the match was really good up until those 2 major spots where Sammy kicked out of the Avalanche Tombstone, MJF kicked out of the 630. Again, both of them could be fixed where, MJF starts selling the knee after the landing and takes time before covering on the tombstone. I could have forgiven it. And then with the 630, MJF gets a foot on the rope or something like that. We get a rope break. But both of those being immediate covers and kickouts, I really did not like that.
I was hovering at 4 stars before they did the tombstone off the middle rope, and then went down to 3.5 in protest of them doing too much from that point on.
I'll let that go. But overall, I mean, we continue on the storyline. MJF gets his win, even though it was full of shenanigans. And then we're going to see what his stipulations are to Jericho to get his match with him, which I'm assuming is going to happen at All Out. Do you think MJF puts a retirement stip on the match? I hope not, because that would just kind of foreshadow that Jericho is not losing.
No, I don't think so. I don't know, it's probably going to be something ridiculous like when the Cody match. But Jericho said that anything short of him running me over with a bulldozer, I will accept.
Yep.
Or a truck, or whatever he said.
Yep. So, yeah, that was that. So the feud continues. And we'll see how it goes. The crowd was super behind Sammy, though.
Yes.
Sammy is like a giant babyface at this point, which is such a huge departure from when AEW started. So good on him for being such. I mean, even a lot of these guys. I mean, such nice development over the past 2 years almost.
It occurred to me during this show that in MJF, Sammy, Darby, and Jungle Boy, you've got your AEW 4 Pillars of Heaven. You've got the 4 guys that you can build a company around for the next decade.
Mm-hmm. And, I mean, you can elevate Pillman into there at some point as well. I mean, there's probably a few other guys I can look at on the roster that also, same thing. And Hangman, of course. Hangman's only, what, like 29?
Yep. So, Sammy, I don't know. But MJF, Jungle Boy, and Darby, I am calling as future AEW World Champions.
Yes. Yeah, Darby's only a year younger than Adam Page, so.
Yeah. And Hangman, obviously.
And Hangman. So, all right. So they ended with a ton of time left over. So they had a highlight package basically covering their time at Daly's place for the past 14, 15 months or whatever. It is amazing how much stuff AEW managed to do during the pandemic and in their time in Daly's place. And I'm actually really going to miss Daly's place.
Yeah, this was a very emotional video because it was fucking awesome, and it, I was already like, it was just all of these, memories, and then they hit the shot of the 10 bell for Brody Lee, and that just put it over the top. If you did not see this video, you need to go watch it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a nice recap of the past 14 months, everything that everybody's been through, and really big moments, and of course, a lot of stuff with Brody Lee, all the shots with him, and then, of course, the tribute show that they did for him as well. And some of the stuff I totally forgot, and I kind of need to go back and watch. I totally forgot about that parking lot match between Santana and Ortiz and Best Friends.
I remembered, like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, I got excited all over again because that match was awesome.
That match was so good. And then Sue flipping off Santana Ortiz as she left. Then they're going off the air. JR said, "There's nothing like seeing a live WWE Dynamite."
Oh, and the children on the Twitter pooped their Pampers. And credit to JR, he tweeted, "Yes, I made a gaffe. No, I'm not quitting." Jim Ross is a goddamn legend, and everybody in charge of AEW knows that they are lucky to have his legitimacy and credibility on their side as they build their brand. If you're a Jim Ross hater, kiss my ass.
Yes. I have nothing. I love Jim Ross. I just think at this point, probably pulling off commentary is probably the right thing to do. Use him for all the backstage stuff, the sit-down interviews and all that. He is great for that stuff. And he can do all that. He can do all the backstage stuff. Any other tasks that are involved. But I think at this point, it's probably time to take him off commentary.
I love having him as the host of the show so much. I love that it's him doing it's Wednesday and you know what that means. I want a way for there to be a significant Jim Ross presence on the show, but have it. Somebody pointed out they should hire Miro, and Miro was awesome. And I just don't see it. Like I think Morrow and Excalibur together would be too much.
Yes. Definitely be too much. Yeah, I mean, I said it in the past. I would put Veda in there, and because she can do that, and she's a former wrestler. She knows everything that she's talking about, and I think it would be cool to have a female voice. I know Renee was on WWE for a while, but I think having a female voice on wrestling would be a good thing to do.
Yeah, they have so many people who are good color commentators that, you know, they can get it up to, like, they do a decent job of not being all over each other with when they do a 4-man booth. It's usually, you know, it's usually Excalibur, Jim Ross, and Tony Schiavone.
Right.
And, like, you sometimes Don Callis for a match, or Taz for a match. And Taz is great on commentary, too. And I love that, like, all the different shows have a little bit of a different feel because they had different commentary. You have your A-team of Jim Ross, Excalibur, and Tony Schiavone on Dynamite. And on Dark, you have Excalibur and Taz, and they're just fucking hilarious together. And then on Dark Elevation, you have Tony Schiavone and Paul White, which is a completely different feel. And then we're going to have something completely different on Rampage. So I like how it even, and it's going to get better now that they won't all look the same. But I like how all of the different programs just have a different feel to them.
Mm-hmm. So,
and I don't. But as far as the A-team on Dynamite, man, I don't know. I can't say that Ross shouldn't be on there. I think maybe he should start. And I know, like, this is long term, probably part of his job, that he needs to teach Excalibur how to be the lead announcer, how to be the salesman, how to be the voice of the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he needs to start putting more of that duty onto Excalibur and kind of reserve his input for what he is best at, which is putting over the gravity and the importance of what is happening in the ring.
Yeah. So that is it for the show. I thought it was a good one, but it does set up some interesting shows coming up over the next 4 weeks, which they're all going to be named shows in Florida and Texas. So, yeah.
Yep.
Florida, Texas, and actually North Carolina, right?
North Carolina. Oh my God. Kenny's going to have a match in Charlotte.
Yep.
They got to do. Do you know what the reference with that is? I don't know what the reference is. It's just like,
I did, but now that you asked,
and I don't get it.
Now that you asked, I'm not going to remember.
It's almost. I'm almost to that.
Michael Jordan. Jay says Michael Jordan. Something Michael Jordan.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right then.
Anything else you want to cover before we wrap it up?
We in a few hours we've got Team Third Generation, Yuji Nagata, Satoshi Kojima, and Hiroyoshi Tenzan going for the Never Openweight 6-man Tag Team Championship against the great Never Openweight 6-man champions in history. And I am a glass case of emotion because I can't root against my boy Yoshihashi, and I can't root against the Third Generation. So That's gonna be a tough one.
Alrighty. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning into That's Wrestling. If you're listening to this as a podcast, we do this show live over on YouTube and Twitch. You can follow the links in the show notes. If you're watching this later on YouTube, you can snag this as a podcast on all your favorite podcast apps, or head over to that'swrestling.com. You can snag the RSS feed over there. Comments, question, feedback, you can send that to me, Eric, at that'swrestling.com. You can follow us at that'swrestling1 with the number 1 at the end on Twitter. You can follow Trae at WrestleIsm on Twitter. So, for Trae Wisecarver, my name is Eric LaRoche, and you have been watching and listening to That's Wrestling. See you later, guys.
Bye.